Hello, welcome back. This video is a bit of a surprise. It was unplanned, so I didn't reference it in the last video, but I think that it could be necessary. What is the video? Well, it's a quick crash course on HTML and CSS for people who have never worked with them. If you have a working knowledge of HTML and CSS, you don't even need to be able to write it. Just if you understand what they are and how they work together, then you can move on, go to the next video, and we'll start scraping. But if you don't, if you've never seen HTML and CSS, you don't understand what it is, then watch this video, and then web scraping will make more sense. Because the whole point of scraping is that we are getting data, extracting it out of HTML. So it helps to understand what HTML is. Okay, so HTML, it stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And let's focus on that last part, markup language. The whole idea is that I have some text, some data, some information that I'm going to send from one computer to another. Let's say I have a recipe or a research paper, a study. Let's go with recipe though. I have my recipe for SF sourdough loaf or something like this. That's the title. And then I could add a little thing that says, written by Colt Steele. And then I want to have some bullet points for ingredients. So we have ingredients. And then I somehow want to have bullet points. So I want the first one to be, flour. And I'm not going to put measurements. Let's just say flour and water and yeast. And I guess for sourdough, you need the starter, sourdough starter. I'm actually learning how to make sourdough right now, so I'm not an expert. It's very bizarre. I have a colony growing in a jar in my kitchen right now that I have to feed every day, that one day I'll make sourdough from. Anyway, this is enough here. So I have this information. This is all that there is to a recipe. It's just data points, ingredients, and then the actual steps. So the whole point of HTML is to be able to send information like this, but also encode additional information about it, encode structure. Because when I send a message, it might just all end up like this. And this is sort of an exaggeration, but imagine that this is what's sent on an index card. It's not how it works, of course. It's not sent written on anything. It's sent as ones and zeros across a cable. But imagine that we have an index card and I'm sending it to someone across the world. And I want to be able to tell them, oh, this right here, this should be bold. This is the title. And it should be 32 pixels font. Or this is the title, I mean. And then this, written by Colt, that should be on the next line below it, and it should be italicized in a smaller font. And then we have ingredients, and that should be bolded, but not as big as SF sourdough loaf. And then flour, water, yeast, and sourdough starter should all be bullet points. If I wanted to actually add that structure, how could I do it? I mean, there's so many ways that I could do it. I could do something like big, colon, and then maybe put all of this in parentheses. And then I could say italics, colon, and this is not HTML, by the way, but this is my version of encoding structure. This would work. And HTML maybe could have been written this way, but instead the syntax I was chosen uses tags like this. You've probably seen these before. So we have these angle brackets, less than, greater than brackets around a word like body. And then often there's a closing tag. So these two correspond. These two, here we go. Or these two correspond. Or head and head correspond. And there's a slash that shows the closing tag or that designates the closing tag. Okay, so there's a bunch of tag names. We're not going to go into all of them. This is, again, a crash course. I'm not showing how to actually write a bunch of HTML. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. So let me get rid of this. And let's say that I wanted to actually, show you some HTML here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take all of this and move it up here. What I have here, this is known as HTML boilerplate. If I get rid of this, I have an HTML file, crashcourse.html. If I type HTML and hit tab in Sublime Text, it gives me this out of the box. It's so commonly used. Every HTML document we make will have this at a bare minimum. This is just the starter. And there's certain things we can fill in, like a title. So in here, we'll put, recipe. Let's just put bread recipe, like this, and save. So remember how I said data is sent from one computer to another, and we want to encode the structure. The other side of the equation, once we actually write HTML, your browser is going to receive the HTML and then render it and display it according to the rules. So if it sees a title, bread recipe is our title, what it does with the title, it's sort of counterintuitive if you haven't worked with HTML. It puts it at the top of the window or the top of the tab in your browser. It doesn't actually show on the page. If I open this file, crashcourse.html, It should open my web browser, and we'll see I'm in full screen, but you can see right here, bread recipe is my title. So it's done that for me automatically. And that's really that's the relationship between HTML and your browser. HTML contains instructions, whether they're written by us when we're developing our own site or from Facebook when we get a response from Facebook when we load the page or I click login. It sends HTML and my browser displays it. Okay, so now let's just run through a couple of tags. I'm going to paste all of this in. I accidentally deleted that. So if I want to make this the largest text on the page, I can wrap it in an H1 tag. H stands for header. H1 is the largest. There's 1 down through 6. H1 to H6. So if I just do this, all of this text is going to be on the page, but only this text is going to be extra large. If I refresh, there we go. Make that a bit bigger. This is extra large, and this is just regular text. Next, if I want to make this italicized, I have a couple of options. There's the old way, it's using an I. Now you're supposed to use EM for emphasis. And if I do this, and I go back to my browser and refresh, I don't know if you can tell, but this is now italicized. It looks like I missed my last name. So let's add that in. Okay, next thing, we have ingredients. So ingredients, we will make an H3. And then flour, water, yeast, sourdough starter, all of those we want to be bullet points. The way we do that is by creating an unordered list. And then inside, we make a bunch of list items. And what I'm doing, by the way, I'm typing LI and hitting tab. And it auto-completes it for me. Okay, so we have our flour in one. Then we have water. And let's just do yeast for now. So all the same data, same information's here. I'm just adding extra stuff around it. And then the browser is going to take care of it. Here we go. And look at that. We have some structure. So if we actually look at the page source, this is all that is sent to my browser. Right now it's coming from my own computer, but if this was coming from a website, we get HTML back, and then the browser displays it correctly. Now, there are a ton of other elements, different tags that we can write in HTML. Besides italics and large text and bullet points, we can do things like add images and hyperlinks, all sorts of things, videos, many things that I can't even think of. There's like 100-something tags, I believe. So we're not going to go into them. All I want you to understand is that information is inside of tags. If I'm on this web page here and I wanted to scrape, what I would need to do, let's say I want every title, this is a blog, I want all the titles of the blog posts. I could right click and click inspect, and this will show me the underlying HTML. These are the Google Chrome developer tools. And what we can see, if I click this little button, I can highlight over things. So this whole thing right here is an article. And then inside that article, we have an H4 called section heading. Where's the section heading? Is it further down? There it is. This is the section heading. Inside of that, we have something called an A tag. This is a hyperlink. And then the text right there, New Year's Resolutions Developer Edition, that is the data I would want. So we identify the information we want. It's in HTML, but this is the data I want to grab with Python or something. Then I have to be able to tell Python how to get here. I need to know the path that we took. It's like Hansel and Gretel, little breadcrumbs. It's in an article, and then there's an H4, and then there's an anchor tag, and then take the text in the middle of that anchor tag. In the next video is when we'll actually start doing the scraping, but what else should I talk about with HTML? So there's tags, like I said, information inside of them. Most websites are much more complicated than this, but there's nothing really extra. It's just a lot of HTML, a lot of tags. All the information is contained in tags, but there might be 10,000 tags on like a Facebook homepage or something. Lastly, let me intro CSS very quickly. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. All we'll focus on is the style part of that. So CSS allows us to add style. Right now, this web page is hideous. When we looked at it, it's black and white. Most web pages aren't. They have fancy fonts and colors and backgrounds and animations and all sorts of things, and we can specify that with CSS. So what I'm going to show you here is not necessarily best practice, but because this is a short video, I'm going to just show the quickest, easiest way to add style. We can type a style tag. What you're usually supposed to do is put your CSS code in a separate file and then link to it here. so that you have an HTML file and then a separate CSS file, but I'm going to do it inline, meaning in the same file. So here's the syntax. If I want to make H1s purple, who wouldn't? Such a great color. Then I do this right here. H1, then these brackets. Inside of them, key value pairs. It's sort of like a dictionary. Color, purple. I could also do something like background. This is going to be so ugly. Background yellow. And then I need these semicolons afterwards. Unlike Python, for example, we need this to specify the end of a line. If I now refresh my page, look at that beautiful purple text with a yellow background. And it's worth noting that applies to all H1s on the page. There just happens to only be one. Next, let's say I want to alter the style of all LIs. So we just select LI and then our brackets. And inside, I'm not showing you, there's so many properties. Just like HTML tags, there's at least 100, if not 200 properties we can change besides color and background. Let's say I want all LIs to be red. And the colors I'm using are just built-in ugly colors. You can make your own custom colors, but I'm not going to get into that here. So color is red and font size is going to be 20 pixels. So we're making it larger. So this applies to all LIs. I refresh my page. I'm using Command R. Hopefully you can see they grew a little bit and they're all red now. That's the very basics of CSS. The last thing I'll show you is commonly things are styled using classes and IDs. So as I showed you here, typing LI and giving styles is going to make every list item on the page the exact same. All of them are going to be red and 20 pixels. If I wanted to single this one out and make flower, blue instead, what I can do is give this LI an ID. ID equals first or something. It's just an arbitrary name that I've made up. And it needs to go in the tag itself, not inside, not in between. And then over here, I can select based off of first, like this. I use the Octothorpe and then the name of the ID, and then same brackets. And if I say color is blue, it's going to find the item, whatever it is. It could be an LI, it could be an H1, whatever has ID of first is now going to be blue. So I'll save, refresh, and you can see it changed to be blue. And if I move that ID, which by the way, an ID is supposed to be used once on a page. So it's to single one item out. Let's move it to the emphasis tag and I refresh. This is now blue. Okay, so an ID is used to call one thing out. There's also something called a class. And this allows us to create a grouping or a class of items that are styled similarly, and we can impact more than one thing at a time, unlike an ID. So it's the same idea as an ID, except we can apply it to multiple items. So let's say let me add a couple more LIs here, and I want the last two, these two, to have a class. So I'm going to just type class equals instead of ID, and then give them a name, and let's just call them green. And now I can select based off of the class, which is slightly different. We don't use the Octothorpe, we use a dot. And then I can type dot, and the name of the class was green. And then what do I want to happen to green things? Let's do color teal. Great color. And now, if I go back, refresh, there we go. So we have all these LIs, and before we were styling them all together. But then I singled out this one with an ID and made it blue, and singled out these two with a class and made them teal. So an ID is for one item, a class is for as many as you want. And the reason that this matters is that in the scraping videos, as we progress through this section, we can actually use these classes to identify information that we want to extract. Because a lot of times websites will use classes. And let's say we're looking at Craigslist, for example, they might have a tag called a paragraph tag, and there might be thousands on a page, but all of the ones that have apartment details as a class are the ones that we want. So we don't want all paragraphs. We only want ones with class apartment details. Well, now that we understand what a class is, and we know that we use a dot to access it with CSS, when we actually see how to select things with Beautiful Soup, which is the module I'm going to show you in the next video, it will help to understand classes and IDs, as well as HTML tags. So this has been very unstructured. If you are actually curious in learning HTML, there are great courses out there, free and paid. I have one. I think I'm allowed to say that. If not, I hope I'm not in trouble. But there are good courses out there. Highly recommend you learn HTML and CSS. It's a great, very easy skill to pick up compared to something like Python. because as you can see here, I mean, you're not really typing any logic at all. It's pure, do this for me and make it green, make it blue. Put this here as a bullet point and make it purple. And that's pretty much it. Okay, that wraps up this crash course. Next, now that we understand what HTML is, it's just a data format to send data back and forth and encode information about it. What should be big, what should be small, what's italicized, what's a photo, and so on. And then we saw CSS, which is a way to control how things look. We saw them together. Now we're going to see how to actually extract information out of HTML from any website using something called Beautiful Soup. That's next. Whew, we made it.